The hunting of captive bred lions is a $1 million industry where males can fetch up to 250,000 rand. And in South Africa, business is booming, with more than 1,000 canned lions shot last year for fun and profit. All of these lions were raised in captivity, born to be killed. And it's not just the slaughter of Africa's iconic predator in the field, but the appalling living conditions at breeding centers that have spurred international animal welfare organization 4 Paws into action.
The vision of 4 Paws is a world without animal suffering, and these lions in particular in South Africa are suffering a really unpleasant and unnatural life.
For the past 3 years, 4 Paws has been on the front line of the battle against canned lion hunting, armed with their gung-ho campaign aimed at stamping out this barbaric practice.
One of the other reasons for running this campaign, of course, is to make the public aware of the situation of canned lion hunting in this country, as well as to show them what the situation for lions is and to offer them a choice of choosing whether or not they want to support an operation that ultimately leads to canned hunting and that has absolutely no conservation ethic behind it.
The brutality of a canned lion hunt was first exposed in South Africa more than a decade ago, sending shockwaves around the world, enraging the public.
There was a huge outcry, a lot of reaction, a lot of response to it, and then it all died down, and people really believed that canned hunting had stopped.
But instead, the canned lion industry has mushroomed from a handful of breeders a decade ago to over 200 lion breeding centers scattered throughout the country. Today, there are over 5,000 captive-bred lions on death row.
We're breeding very beautiful, very intelligent, very long-lived social animals like battery chickens as a product for a hunt.
All proceeds go straight into the pockets of the operators, and this unethical practice has just been given the green light to continue. Last year, the hammer came down, sealing the fate of thousands of captive-bred lions when the Predator Breeders Association won their appeal in the Supreme Court.
And this was absolutely devastating to hear that now legally it can go ahead.
And with the highly secretive, mostly illegal operating practices, which are in violation of a number of animal welfare acts, it's been almost impossible for an outsider to reveal the underbelly of what conditions are really like for the lions on the inside.
I think that many people are not aware of the actual life of a lion in South Africa. The lion is no longer the king of the jungle. The icon of Africa is this beautiful and majestic beast.
In this exclusive footage, the 4 Paws undercover investigation team managed to get into one of the biggest breeding centers in South Africa. This breeder has over 500 lions imprisoned on farms in the Northwest Province. 100 lions from this facility were hunted last year. This means 1 lion every 3 days was killed. It also means he made over 10 million rand.
One of the problems is that the canned lion hunters and the captive breeders claim that breeding lion in captivity contributes to conservation, that it's saving the wild populations. In fact, what has happened is through the captive breeding of lion, it has created a completely new market and doesn't in fact save the ones in the wild. In fact, it very well might be a threat to the conservation of wild lions.
Another questionable business linked to the canned lion industry is the petting tourism which takes place at some lion interaction facilities, where international volunteers can pay up to 2,000 euros for a 2 to 4 week working holiday.
But when they pack their bags and they go back to wherever they came from with a good feeling that they've contributed to conservation, they've contributed to the life of the lions that they were caring for, what they really don't know is that those animals go back into the breeding system for the canned hunting industry, where they later on will be shot.
Also known as animal pimping, tourists pay to cuddle a cub which has often been removed from its mother as early as 3 days after birth.
Not only does this bring her into oestrus again so that she cycles and she can have more cubs, but it ensures a ready supply of young cubs that paying volunteers and tourists can come in and play with and pet and touch.
With no conservation value and very few outlets, what happens to these cute cubs when they become too big to cuddle?
Sadly, most of those cubs get sold onto hunting organizations.
And for the first time since the Cook Report expose 13 years ago, Four Paws managed to acquire this hunting promo, which clearly shows that a canned hunt is as brutal and inhumane as it was 13 years ago.
13 years ago, the world was exposed to the issue of canned hunting by watching a lioness being shot in front of her cubs behind a fence. And we wanted to investigate and see how far things have changed for the benefit of those animals, for their welfare. And unfortunately, due to the outcome of this court case, it's been very, very clear that absolutely nothing has changed. And in fact now, it's a free-for-all.
There are various ways that they carry out the canned hunt. And all of it is basically guaranteeing that when the hunter arrives on site, there will be a lion for him to shoot. It might be releasing the animal from a cage into a very, very small camp the night before the hunt. The animal may be drugged so that he is in a certain position and doesn't move and they can be sure he's there. Or they put out baits for the animal.
On this hunt, a Russian client escorted by a group of professional hunters hones in on a captive bred lion.
Underneath his chin. Ja, just squeeze it. Shoot again. Underneath his chin. I don't see his reflex. Shoot him in the neck.
With new legislation, a lion can go from cage to kill just 24 hours after being released.
This footage shows 11 shots before the animal was finally put out of its misery. And how do you explain 3 people blasting away at an animal at the same time?
After several shots, the client appears to relax. A lengthy round of congratulations follows, while the lion apparently lies wounded in the valley below.
If you are going to hunt an animal, you need to be able to kill it within 1 shot, and if not 1 shot, within a 2nd shot. And as far as I understand, the ethics of sport hunting is that if the client misses the animal or wounds the animal, that the PH is supposed to step in and then put the animal down out of its misery.
Eventually, they descend to finish the job.
They finally go down to see the animal and then finally put it out of its misery. So by 11 shots later, the animal was finally killed. And I'm sorry, that's absolute canned hunting in its purest form.
With the drugged animal, and in particular the footage we saw, there was absolutely no response. The animal wasn't responding naturally to its environment, and when the first shot went off, there was also very, very little reaction from that animal. And you're only going to get that with an animal that is drugged.
The public that's under the misconception that what they're doing is adding value to conservation, when in fact they're doing exactly the opposite.
Like this Russian hunter who believes that canned lion hunters are saving lions in the wild.
You have to be proud that you to save the nature. I'm sure that you not, because hunting is not killing, it is save the nature. I'm 100% more than 100% sure of this.
Four Paws has rescued 28 lions from the canned lion industry. They now happily live out their lives at Lions Rock Big Cat Sanctuary in Bethlehem in the Free State.